Excited to start this meeting. So we'll call it to order and consider the minutes from the last meeting. They have been sent out ahead. I hope everybody's read them. Are there any changes, additions? Do I have a motion to approve? Jeannie, a second. All in favor? Aye. Sorry. And then the most exciting thing is the introduction of the new council members who are appointees to this commission. So my own council person. And I wish you all would just say something about what you're interested in. Sandy, please.
Okay, yes, you can hear me. So I'm very excited to be here. I'm the council person for District 34. And as most of you know, all of you know probably, District 34 includes the Warner Parks, and we have a really beautiful, well-functioning greenway that is widely used. One of the reasons that I wanted to be part of this is that I'm very passionate about both sustainability and green space, preservation and expansion of green space. And I think our greenway system is going to be a key aspect, is and will continue to be and will hopefully grow into more of an aspect of both green space preservation and allowing people to get around the city in alternate ways besides cars. The other reason that I wanted to be involved is because of equity. The people in our district are extremely lucky and privileged to have a well-functioning system. We have these beautiful parks. I want that for the whole city. I want the disconnected pieces of the Greenway to be connected. I want to help move that work along. So that is why I feel so passionate about this, and I'm very grateful to be here with you all. Thanks.
Thank you. And Jenny Welch.
Thank you. I am Jenny Welsh. I am the council member for District 16. And I share a lot of the feelings that Sandy has about why this is important and why I am so very excited and grateful to be a member of the commission. In my district, we are disconnected from the larger greenway. We have a small greenway, but we're disconnected, and we feel that very acutely. People in my district want to be able to travel throughout the city in different ways, taking advantage of the greenway and all the benefits that the greenway gives us, both physically and mentally and psychologically. But also, most people don't think about what Nashville actually is. We are actually one of the largest urban forests in the entire United States. We are nestled into the Highland Rim. And if we acquire about 7,000 more acres of park space out in the Highland Rim, we would become the largest urban forest in the world and could have a fully connected greenway, and that greenway could bring people to our city for something other than Lower Broad, but also give us all access to discover all the 526 acres of our city, using the greenways as the pathway. Greenways are key to a multimodal system. Greenways are key to our psychological health. We saw the beauty of greenways and parks during COVID. I want to increase accessibility. I want everyone to be able to use the greenways. I want them to be open to everyone who loves them and wants the benefit, psychological and the increase in their quality of life, to have access to that. So I'm very excited about this new day with the new governments from the top and all the exciting things that I think we're going to be able to do.
Me too. Thank you. Well said. Wow. And that's why I became interested in greenways, is because where I live, we have Radnor Lake, and no one else has that, and no one else can 5 minutes from their house take an hour and an hour walk, or 2 if they want. So we are privileged in some places, and we have to spread that through. I agree. Thank you. And Clay Camp.
Thank you. My name is Clay Camp, and I represent District 6 on the Metro Council, and that's over on the east side. Includes Shelby Park and Bottoms. And so I would just incorporate everything that my colleagues said about why this is important, and rather than repeating it all, I would only add that the east side is an important piece of that puzzle, especially when it comes to connecting up the network, including Davidson Street and the East Bank as well. I think one thing it's important for us to be focused on, us, the council, is making sure that that works for the city as a whole. The Greenways, I think, are an important piece of that, and Shelby Park and Bottoms is something that I'm a big supporter of, and it's a huge asset for our city, and including the Greenway. And so I'm very excited to be here. Thanks so much for your warm welcome, and looking forward to getting to work with you all.
Thank you all. Welcome, great. Something new has been added to our agenda by law. We are now going to have a public comment period every meeting, which will be very interesting. So I know we have several, at least a couple members of the public. Would you all like to speak?
No, ma'am, we didn't sign up today, we're just observing.
Okay, in the future you can. It's,
Thank you.
that's a good addition, which is great. And now another exciting part of the agenda, the project updates.
All right, well, I do want to say welcome to all of our new council members. I was at the council committee just last Tuesday, a week ago, when you all were elected, so we really appreciate you being here on such short notice. And we've got a great council committee as well. I'm really excited to work with everyone on that committee, and we have a lot going on. So today is kind of a shortened version of something we did back in April, which was to go through pretty much every single project that we have going on. So I've condensed it just a little bit today. We'll recap the entire year at our December meeting, but I think we'll touch on most of your districts. You all mentioned what you have going on in each of those. The Mill Creek Greenway was one of my first projects when I started with parks. Spent a lot of time recently getting some extra open space that's come our way in your district. And Clay, lots happening along the Cumberland River, development there along Davidson Street. So anyway, I'm gonna drag my microphone with me. You want the lights out for visibility? Let's just see how it goes. Well, you know what? Yeah, I don't need notes. I know these projects. We can. It is a little hard to see without the lights on, so everybody stay awake. This. Make sure my little pointer works. All right, so not necessarily in any particular order, other than the first projects are projects that we're really actively working on right now. I will tell you, we have capital projects, capital funding, which we appreciate so much from council when those get funded. We also very intensely work with private developers who are building where we have either greenways existing or greenways planned to both get easements, but also moving in the direction of having those developers partner with us to build and oftentimes maintain at least the landscape along the greenways. So you'll see both of those types of projects as we go through. The Charlotte Corridor Rail with Trail Greenway is a planned 4.5-mile greenway that will connect the 440 Greenway over to the farmer's market, and by connecting into the farmer's market, we get connected over to the Cumberland River Greenway. It's part of an overall system which we have branded as the City Central Greenway. The City Central is a loop system planned around the urban core with connectors that go out into the community. And with those connectors, it's about a 35-mile loop. About a third of that has already been constructed. It includes sections of the Cumberland River Greenway, the Gulch Greenway, several other areas in town. So this is a portion of that. It runs along the Cheatham County rail line, and that rail line will continue to be active. And our greenway is planned to go alongside that rail line. We've been in design for a while now and working really closely with the Cheatham County Rail Authority and are at the point where we have presented to them an easement agreement. We need to be within their right-of-way in many places. We're also working with adjacent property owners for space that we need to successfully parallel that rail line. So if I could get my pointer pointed there instead of on me. This is the 28th, 31st Avenue connector, which has cycle tracks and sidewalks off-street. So we're utilizing that to connect from Centennial Park over across Charlotte, which is here, to this rail line. And that rail line, again, follows, or the trail will follow the rail line all the way over to the farmer's market. We've got a connector planned that would go up to Fisk and Meharry universities and down to Watkins Park and Edmondson Park, and also down 10th Avenue North to Frankie Pierce Park. So Frankie Pierce has the Gulch Greenway already built, and so we'll be connecting into that system. And y'all, if you have questions, stop me or we can take those at the end. This is Frankie Pierce, a section of the Greenway that runs through that. So just kind of letting you know a couple of the points of interest, and of course the farmer's market at the far east end of the project. So in that same vein, we've got two sections. So let me back up. The Charlotte Corridor Rail with Greenway is in design, and we were given funding to go towards the first phase of construction. So we're moving along with that. This is the 440 Greenway segment that will connect from the trailhead right out in front of this building to Centennial Park. And the trailhead is here. So we're sitting in this building here. An existing first phase of the 440 connects Centennial Dog Park over to Elmington Park. So this project is in design. I'll show you a little bit of what this is going to look like, a little bit of a different orientation. We are sitting in this building, and the trailhead existing is here. We'll be following, in this case, along the street just because of the topographical issues. But we're proposing a road diet so that the Greenway can remain out of the street, separated by a landscape strip, hopefully a little bit more than a strip, down to Centennial Park and actually on into Centennial Park to connect with a project that our Parks Planning is working on now for new shelter in the park, new picnic shelter, and some additional trails. So that little short segment, 0.2 of a mile, will connect the existing 440 Greenway all the way from Elmington Park into Centennial Park and via the trails in Centennial Park on over to West End, the Vanderbilt campus, and businesses and residences along there. This is in design. We're almost finished. We'll be looking for funding to build this, making that request in the next capital budget. All right. So our other section, the 440 Greenway, that's also in design, let me get you oriented again. This is Centennial Park. This is the existing Greenway that starts at our front door here and goes over to Elmington Park. The proposed Greenway down to Centennial that we just spoke about is right here. And the other segment that we're working on will connect Sevier Park and Sevier Community Center with Gale Lane Park, which already has a Greenway trail, over to Browns Creek Park, which also has an existing trail. So we'll be connecting 3 parks and a community center, quite a few neighborhoods with this project. Browns Creek Park, since Tom is here, I'll make sure I mention, was built on flood buyout property after the 2010 flood. So we were able, through their efforts of volunteer buyout, we were able to take that property, which has lovely mature trees and I'll come to this in a lovely creek running through it. so there's no cost for the land, so we're able to just focus on trail construction. This is Gale Lane Park with its picnic shelter, and the Greenway will run here in this direction. Actually starts at Sevier, runs along the street, connects to Gale Lane, runs alongside the interstate, which you can see it right here, way below the interstate, it's up here, but we'll be in TDOT's excess land, which we utilized on the first phase of the 440. We've done the same thing on some other greenways here around the county. We'll go underneath the interstate and then follow along Battlefield Drive over to Browns Creek Park. So very lovely trail connecting three really important public facilities. Also be asking for funding for construction on that at the next capital budget. So again, and that's part of the trails within Browns Creek. So you can see, once the homes were gone, we were left with what already felt like a park because of the tree canopy there. And now a really lovely walk-up greenway.
Cindy, can you add, as you're doing a good job of what has funding, what doesn't, what's in design phase, you know, I think many of us are used to listening to these phases, which is helpful as a reminder too. But can you give us some sense of of timing on these pieces?
Well, we'll finish design on both these 440 segments this fall. And then whenever we have our next capital budget round, we'll request funding for those. We have a little bit of funding set aside, but not enough to build them both.
Could I follow up on that by asking how do we, as a group, how do we connect with parks, with, I don't know, the mayor's office, other groups within the city, and how do we prioritize projects? Like how is it determined what we end up focusing on?
Sure, that's a good question. Some of it is sheer availability of right-of-way. So the Greenways Division and Parks, we don't condemn land, we don't use eminent domain. We have initially focused our greenways on the 8 major waterways initially. We've expanded that to the smaller creeks that feed into these waterways. Through an ordinance, through the subdivision ordinance, we're able to ask for easements over the floodway and the buffers on projects that are on land that's being subdivided and developed. So it's not a huge policy, but it has allowed us to get a lot of right-of-way. We also just talk with individual developers. So as development happens where we have Greenways plan and Plan to Play has those outlined, there are opportunities there that we also try to take advantage of. The city central greenway veers away from the waterway, so it's one of our urban greenways, and again, that has been driven significantly by development that's happening where we have a greenway planned. So some of that priority really is where can we actually go today and have the right to be there with a trail. We also are trying to focus on underserved areas, so Plan to Play has identified those. The Charlotte Railway Trail is a good example. It's in North Nashville. And then we also try to make meaningful connections. So while we might get an easement that's just a short easement, and it might even that segment might get built by a developer, when we're investing capital dollars, are trying to connect parks to parks or to a business district, or with the railroad trail is such an easy one to bring up because it checks so many of our goals, connecting people. The Lentz Health Center is there. There are several other public facilities there, the universities, the farmers market, existing parks. We're also looking to add green space to the city. So we're the Greenways and Open Space Commission. Many of our greenways are in place because of the open space effort. So Shelby Bottoms, Ravenwood with the Stones River Greenway, Mill Ridge Park, which will have some trails in it, the flood buyout projects that we've worked on and acquired property, all of those have given us opportunities. So we try to spread it around the county. We try to hit underserved areas, and we have to be someplace where we can actually build something. Do we have the right to be there? Sure. Mill Creek Greenway, this is down at Mill Creek Park, and the Sunnywood neighborhood is here. This is an existing greenway that we built several years ago. This project is truly just permitting work. When we built this project, we extended the entry drive into the park, built a trailhead, and then built the trail with a pervious section here. In building the roadway, we had planned to take some of the fill dirt required for that from this lower area of the project. It wasn't suitable for roadway work. So we're coming back now and taking some of the earth here that was intended to be removed when we built the project, just to balance out the cut and fill. So that's out for procurement right now. So not a new greenway here, just making sure we're fulfilling our permit requirements. So there's a little bit that goes into designing a greenway that's in the floodplain. Right now, we've partnered with our folks at Metro Water Services on the Metro Center Levee Greenway. I say partner, we're just enjoying the benefits, actually. They're coming back and doing some pavement repairs on the trail on the levee to just keep the integrity of the levee in place. So we're benefiting from that. I believe that work is supposed to be finished by about mid-November. We thought the trail would be closed, and I think it is periodically, but they've worked with us to, whenever we can, to allow the public to come through on that trail because it's heavily used. The Gulch Greenway at 11 North. So let me orient you again. This is Frankie Pierce Park. This is Bicentennial Mall Park. This is the existing, there is an existing greenway now that runs from Frankie Pierce across MLK Junior Boulevard, behind 11 North Apartments, and then most recently behind Asurian down to the Broadway Bridge. The Asurian segment was built by Highwoods Properties. They built it and are maintaining that for us and did some improvements under Church Street at the trailhead. Frankie Pierce was also a partnership with Capital View land and part of the construction cost. So 11 North is planned for redevelopment. Part of that, those apartments in the front, they'll stay where they are, but there's a big, huge parking lot in the back. And the property is zoned for much higher density than what was built. So along with that development, they'll be redeveloping this. I don't think I have any other photos. Redeveloping that greenway and adding a vertical connection up to the top of the Church Street Bridge, which is a really big deal. To be able to get folks from down in the Gulch up to Church Street and new bike lanes and facilities that are planned there. And with the redevelopment of the Broadway Bridge, which was just reopened, so all this was torn down and rebuilt, we have an easement under that bridge and currently have a trail that comes out to 11 North. It's kind of a placeholder. Now that the bridge work is done, we'll be looking at designing a real trailhead under this space. Highwoods Property owns the parcel next door, and they'll have a development. I'm not sure the timing on that, but we'll be working with them again to coordinate what happens with their development and make sure it works well with this greenway. But that is soon to be reopened. I think they're repaving the existing trail right now. The Opry Mills Connector has been a project that we've had on the books for a really long time. Various things have stopped and started that project, but it will, let me see if I have a different, not the best slides there. It will connect the Cumberland River pedestrian bridge that connects to Stones River Greenway over to the mall. And we've got easements along the river, and it will actually cut across their parking lot and take folks up to the mall. And we're finishing up all our requirements with the state on that project. We have a grant, a TAP grant for that project. So there's lots of submittals and permitting that we have to go through with the state. But that'll give a connection from that entire commercial campus down to downtown. And the only place that we're not on a greenway there will be the entrance drive to Shelby Park where it's shared use, and Davidson Street where we have the separated bike lanes that provides a connector. As that river frontage gets redeveloped, and we've got one project that's come through already that will have a greenway on it, we'll continue to expand the greenway itself. So we'll have both the bike lanes in the street and the greenway along the river. Another redevelopment, this is the Peabody Union KVV Bridge is here. You're looking back to the west. This is under construction right now. This is a Ascend Amphitheater. So right now we have a greenway that runs under KVB, goes up to Rolling Mill Hill. This project is rebuilding and replacing this greenway, adding some additional pedestrian public access here, giving an overlook from the greenway and adding landscaping and other features and connecting, better connecting this whole campus, not just the Peabody Union, but the entire campus to the greenway. Wharf Park, which will pop up here in a minute, is proposed park right about here, down below Rolling Mill Hill. And of course, Riverfront Park is just off the screen here from Ascend. So this project is being built by the developer. Again, they're going to build it and maintain the landscaping, and that'll at their cost, and that's part of our easement agreement with them. When this was first built, we really didn't have an easement agreement. We had an MOU with MDHA for that greenway. And with the redevelopment, we have an official easement now. So it just adds a little bit of protectivity to the greenway.
Cindy, when, it may differ, but when a developer agrees to maintain the landscaping, does that have a time limit usually, or what's the?
It's in perpetuity. So thank you for asking that. That is important. These agreements that we get, that we've received so far, we're asking for a greenway easement that is in perpetuity, and then along part of that easement agreement is the maintenance portion. If that land is sold, it travels with the land, so that agreement is there. And it takes a good bit of load off of our folks who are stretched with maintenance staff. As we're adding these significant projects in, we're not having to necessarily add staff for those.
Great.
Yes. So this, sorry, really dry voice. This is the master plan vision for Wharf Park. As I mentioned, that's down at the foot of Rolling Mill Hill. So Rolling Mill Hill sits up here. This is Hermitage Avenue, the Silliman Evans Bridge. And right now, this is just vacant property. 88 Hermitage sits right here. So what we are envisioning with this joint park greenway project is to connect where the greenway ends currently, back along the top of a bluff behind 88 Hermitage. It'll wind its way down through the park and set itself up to continue down the Cumberland and connect to Browns Creek Park. And then we're also looking at what it would take to connect at the lower level along the river back up to Riverfront Park. So we have a feasibility study underway for that. There's a study happening for what should happen with 88 Hermitage. So all that will, work together. We won't start construction documents on the park until we have a good understanding of how 88 Hermitage will be used. It's just the empty African-American School for the Blind. So that school has been vacated for a while, and we purchased that from the state of Tennessee, about a year or so ago. And we're not sure yet exactly what's going to happen in there. That study's still going on. So pretty cool. River access, Greenway access, hopefully back in this direction, and also setting this up, like I said, to get down to Browns Creek. We're anticipating that there'll be a lot of redevelopment happening in this kind of industrial area here, just to the right here of Silliman Evans Bridge. And then this is all part of that City Central Loop system that we talked about. First to Gay Park. So this is the Cumberland River Greenway, which of course is very long. It's not completely built yet, but we've got lots of segments. This is the Cumberland River. We're looking north. North is up here. Here's by Centennial Mall Park. And the Greenway runs along First Avenue. Maybe it's Second Avenue there. And we had a space here, it's just a green space, and decided because of some other activity happening, some permanent supportive housing happening across the street and development happening to the south, to redevelop that park. And it's been in a master plan and now in construction documents. So it had a lot of public input. The Greenway will stay there, it'll just be enhanced. There's overlook areas, I believe pickleball, some lawn space there, just enhancing what really was partially a parking lot and then just some unused green space. So that is in the construction document phase right now. Another public-private partnership, Bicentennial Mall, Cumberland River, Jefferson Street Bridge here, the existing Greenway going along, forgive me, First, I think. And then the Greenway cuts across, the existing Greenway cuts across behind First Tennessee Park and through properties that were owned by the state that were recently purchased for redevelopment. So multi-use, mostly multifamily. In their development, what they have agreed to do is widen the Greenway, add landscaping, maintain it. And again, all of these are, the developers are bearing the cost for all of these. So, I've changed orientation, but this is one of those state-owned properties. The river is here. The Greenway cuts through. Their second development will be over here. And this one we're really very proud of. This is the Greenway that runs behind First Tennessee Park. And when that park was built, the Greenway was closed during ball games and events. So it amounted to about 100 days a year that the Greenway was closed to the public. So what this developer has agreed to do as they're building their multifamily project is to keep the existing Greenway basically where it is, but come alongside it with a second Greenway that will always be open to the public. It's outside of the fencing. You don't have to have a ticket to a ball game to get inside, and that's under construction right now. Something that we're very happy to remedy. That's just a shot of their development and the Greenways coming here and coming in here. Germantown, Modera Germantown is another public-private partnership. It is a multifamily development that will include a Greenway right on the river, where right now we veer away from the river down around the Newhoff building. and that is also under construction. Same developer over in the Nations on the Cumberland River, similar situation where they have a multifamily project and they're building a section of Greenway along the river there, which eventually will connect in both directions. And then they also add connections back into their sidewalk network within their own development. I know I'm going, we'll sit down and I'll give y'all more than just the really quick view here, but I do want you to have a sense of where we're working and how we're working to get these built and how we're adding green space. So all of these, greenways are being built, are at least coming with at least an easement, a greenway easement that does stay in place in perpetuity. Some of them come with additional green space as well that we might own instead of just having an easement on. But those easements are public access. The greenways right now currently are open dawn to dusk. We're looking at all the new urban greenways that we're building. We're adding lighting and contemplating how we'll adjust hours so that people who are using these to get about town in winter when it's 5 o'clock, they need a place to still continue to be out on, to extend those hours and safely with lighting. That's an example of what this project looks like. This is the Greenway. There's a pretty large embankment going down to the river, which sits over here. So the tree canopy is conserved, and pretty intensive landscaping happening alongside their building. And all of that's publicly accessible. So even though it's adjacent to a private development, the public has access to it. All right, still on the Cumberland. The Cumberland is so long, there are many, many opportunities for greenways. This is the Metro Center Levee trailhead that was recently redeveloped, and I wish I'd caught more of this. This is kind of a gateway entrance to it. Alta Riverwalk multifamily complex completely renovated that trailhead for us. New trailhead signage, new landscaping, new layout. It's really quite nice. The levee sits back here, and then of course the Cumberland River's on the other side. And that too, they just, they came to us and said, hey, we'd like to improve that trailhead. It's one of our older ones. It needed some love. And we came to a participation agreement on that. So as that changes hands, the owners of that development will continue to take care of the landscaping on that project. Brookmead Greenway, I'm sure you're all aware that that greenway that ties into the Cumberland River had a very large homeless encampment, which has been cleared out. And we are currently restoring that greenway. So we're in design to put back what was there. So a new overlook, Kelly's Point overlook. This is historical area. Overlooks the Cumberland River. That has to be rebuilt. The greenway has to be repaved. There's a bridge over a drainage way here that doesn't have to be rebuilt, thankfully, but does need some repair work. Another boardwalk here that has to be rebuilt, and then some work done on the trailhead. So that's underway right now, the design for that. And I'm not sure when we'll get bids back in on that. It's really just a procurement timeline. And then recently had a community meeting to talk about what other things could be added to the park. The funding that we have right now is to restore it back to its original condition. And the most recent public meeting was to talk about and hear what other things might be appropriate to help continue to activate that park. Changing gears a little bit, the Richland Creek Greenway, 2 projects happening there, 2 private developments, the St. Thomas campus and adjacent H.G. Hill development. This is White Bridge Road. This is St. Thomas West. We've got a greenway planned here that the developer will build along with an easement. And then just the other side of White Bridge Road is Bellmead Plaza. And I'm sure you all heard about Bellmead Plaza. Also along the Richland Creek Greenway, White Bridge Road runs here, with extensive greenway being built as part of that project as well. So both of those, Bellmead has been through, I think they've both been through the planning, been to you all for preliminary SP approvals, and they're working on final design or construction documents for both of these. So we'll continue to work with them. When they build a greenway for us, we have greenway standards, we review the design, we review the construction and approve all of that. These will have the same agreement that we've talked about here with both easements and maintenance.
Cindy, will that Greenway and the adjacent one get to cross the creek and go to the Richland Creek Greenway?
Yes, let me back up and show you where that happens. I'm trying to think which is the best. This is probably the best. This is an existing trailhead for it's the old White Bridge that is now just pedestrian. It runs over, or goes over the railroad tracks as well as Richland Creek. So these greenways will tie into that trailhead. And then that gives you a connection to the other side of the creek and the existing system that's already in place.
Walk me through that again. Okay,
Old White Bridge Road,
yes,
the old bridge. This is the new
Right,
White Bridge
right.
Road. St. Thomas here, Richland Creek here with the greenway alongside it. There's another trailhead, we call it the NES trailhead over here. So these trails will tie into this trailhead. And then you'll be able to take the existing trail over the railroad tracks and tie into existing trail now that will get you into the rest of the McCabe and Nashville State.
but from St. Thomas, for example, you will have to come all the way out to White Ridge Road and walk along that. We can't cross the
Well,
creek.
so here's the hospital. You can take
Right.
the greenway here, but yes, you'll tie into the trailhead here. This project does not currently include crossing the creek at this point.
How feasible is that? Do you think that can happen?
I think it can happen at CSX Railroad, so you're in the railroad right-of-way, which is a pretty extensive process working with any railroad. Physically, it's certainly feasible. Just getting the agreements and the funding to do it are the other very important critical steps.
Okay. I think that's important because a lot of people at St. Thomas, patients, workers, everybody, are not going to go through all those shopping centers and around for a walk. I mean, I think it's too far.
Well,
Huh?
I understand about the distance, and yes, there is a bit of a distance. It is beautiful. When you get down to this space, you're not in and won't be in the development. The development is here. You'll be back
Okay.
in the natural
okay.
area, so it's
Good.
also adding quite a bit of open space. And
Good.
when you're standing here, it's
Yes.
very much lower than the hospital. You honestly feel like you're so far away from the
And the
city.
greenway is along the creek and not in the development, the new development.
Right.
Which also will have greenways
There'll
through
be
it.
connectivity into the development,
Yes.
so we always
Yes.
want to give people that connection back
Right,
and
okay.
forth.
No,
But it's buffered and will be buffered by open space. Really a beautiful spot. Maybe we'll
Great.
do a field trip down there. That might be our
I think it'd be nice.
our next field trip, take a look at that. And then also take a look at Bellmead Plaza and how that's going to work.
Thank you.
Just to let you all know, we try to do 2 field trips a year, and they're during our regular meeting time to get out, and because it's one thing to see these on the screen, but it's completely different to go out. And we try to go to projects that are planned but not developed yet, so that you can see the before and after.
Oh,
So when you
great.
come to the ribbon cutting, you'll say, yes, I remember this, and we all looked at it and thought, what in the world?
No.
But,
A lot of us went to those hearings from the developers, both from the Bellmead and the other. the HG Hill, and they kept talking about all their Greenway connections, but they're down by the blue. They're not what we're talking about, which is good. I mean, I don't think it's a Greenway is exactly walking by various apartments and condominiums.
Right, I mean, there are definitely connections.
Yes,
Like I said, we
good.
want these folks to be connected, and vice versa. We want people to be able to travel on a greenway and get to
Right, yeah,
um,
good.
these kind of areas.
Well, thank you for clearing that up for me.
Yeah, thanks for asking that. 'cause I
Cindy, is
probably
there a
should've.
linkage between, to get from this Bellmead Plaza one over to the St. Thomas?
There's
HG Hill?
a parcel there that is not part of Bellmead Plaza development. They'll be working with to at least get an easement to let us connect over. It's tricky, just the way cars move and, facilities that are there now, that we have to work around. Kroger, that's there now actually extends out over part of the creek and into the creek.
I know.
So that'll be torn away, and actually, some of that'll be retained for recreation space. Harpeth River Greenway, so here are the Warner Parks, and we have, of course, quite an extensive greenway already in place on the Harpeth River, but we're not finished with it yet. And one space that we have wanted for years and years, even before I was on staff, was to complete the connection around a portion of this bend, and let me get a little further in. Oops. Seem to have totally lost my way here. This is the HYSA, now I think it's Nashville Football Soccer Complex. The existing Morton Mill segment of the Greenway is here in the stark green. This is CSX Railroad. Morton Mill is here. Harpeth River goes around this bend, and this is Coley Davis Road. So hopefully that kind of gives you some orientation. We have an existing greenway pedestrian bridge across the Harpeth River, and it makes this little loop trail. This is on state of Tennessee property, as are the soccer fields. And then the greenway along Morton Mill just terminates here on an easement that we have for the greenway. It terminates for a couple of reasons. One, the railroad, and two, this was privately owned, it still is, privately owned property, where we were not able to acquire an easement from that property owner. But he and his family have since put that up for sale. The Ariza Bellevue project was proposed and has been approved. It's been through its preliminary SP approval at council. And part of their SP requirement is to extend the greenway to connect to the existing greenway. They're also building a vehicular bridge from Coley Davis to give access to their multifamily development. And the other really great thing, in addition to to getting past the CSX Railroad, so they're looking at either tunneling under the railroad or bridging underneath it over here and then continuing on. They'll donate right around 20 acres to the city of open space here. Let me see if I have here's their proposed development, here's the railroad. This is the open space that they're talking about donating, or that they will donate to the city. The other cool thing is the Dorothy Kate and Thomas Frist Foundation donated 65 acres, so basically half of that bend to Metro Parks, all of this for a park. But it's been somewhat landlocked. We didn't have vehicular access to it. We have pedestrian access. And with the new vehicular bridge that's proposed with Ariza, we'll have vehicular access to the project. So we'll be able, or to the parkland. So we'll be able to build out that park, which will be mostly passive. It'll have greenway, and we haven't master planned it yet, but anticipated greenway, retention of tree canopy, picnic areas. We'll go out to the community to find out what they want there, but anticipated that it'll be mostly passive. So pretty cool opportunity here. And of course, there's lots of details to work out with this design and that bridge design. And these, we don't only partner with developers. When this is happening, we're partnering with pretty much every other metro department. Metro Water Services, many projects, NDOT, because the bridge, crossing, the railroad, we're working with CSX, working with the state of Tennessee, lots of folks. So we've been the beneficiary of really good relationships, both outside of Metro and inside Metro too, with our own departments.
And the crossing of the railroad in some way is a requirement for them.
It is a requirement. Part of
Fabulous.
their SP requirement was to get that greenway from this side of the railroad to this
Right.
side of the railroad.
Good.
So what is that, see that top parcel?
Up here?
Yeah, around what, the greenway goes around it. What is that parcel?
There's just open space there. I think there's a pickup soccer field maybe there as
okay,
well.
okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
When I used to go to the soccer games up there, and soccer games can get boring, for 9 and 10-year-olds, and Clark and I walked that around, and we wish we could go into the other parts, just because it's sort of a field, and
Well, and, our next, I guess, phase of that would be to connect this greenway up to Highway 70 and on over to the Bellevue Community Center. It's kind of a long-range plan there. So when you envision the really long stretch of the Harbor River Greenway that goes all the way back to the Warner Parks, coming here and then letting people access that Bellevue Community Center via bicycle, it's or walking, pretty short run compared to having to hop on an interstate or in a much nicer way to get there. And also just to come out and use the Greenway itself. I mean, really, that is the
Great.
main attraction there. This is the Whites Creek Greenway connector that we have planned. Metro Water Services has purchased through their buyout program. I think my pointer's going on the blitz here, but what you see outlined in red is buyout property, and Tom can talk a little bit about that, but he's been my best partner at Metro Water Services, along with some other staff members there who are just great. Mature trees left behind. It really does feel like a park already, but it needs a greenway to connect people back to the Hartman Community Center. And long range, we're looking at all the development that's happening along Trinity Lane and Buena Vista and making that connection long range as well. And then I'll just quickly run through some of the most recent, this is not all, but some of the most recent and past land acquisition. Mill Ridge Park, I think 800 acres, forgive me if I've got that wrong, I think it was about 800 acres that we acquired through our division for open space. Southeast Nashville, if you're not familiar with it, I encourage you to go visit. The first phase just opened of the park. And, that acquisition happened, 7, 8 years ago. And we've been working on the first phase of the park development. There's a really strong friends group that's been established out there. So we recently had the groundbreaking for the first phase. And I always like to remind people, this land it hasn't just been here. It didn't just happen. It took a lot of effort, a lot of pulling together and partnering with nonprofits, the Josie Davis Foundation. I'm not going to name the others because I'm going to get their names wrong, but lots of conservation groups that worked with us there to accumulate all these different parcels that have allowed this really beautiful regional park. And we love to celebrate when the first phase of a park gets developed, but we don't want to forget the work that went into it through this division to make that space available. So that is a huge part of what we do, and we think it's really important. It's just one of the ponds on that park, just gorgeous. Another fairly recent, I guess about a year or so ago, we acquired land in Councilmember Sepulveda's district, which actually had no park within its district. It had some really close by, but not within the district. And this was 3 different parcels that we had just been actively searching for land and looking at undeveloped parcels, and happened to be driving by and there was a for sale sign. So we just made a cold call to the owner, who was excited, I think, to sell his property to Metro for a park. It had been in their family for generations. And this is just a little glimpse of what that parcel looks like. It's actually got a couple of different elevations. It's terraced. That has been through community input, and believe our Parks Planning Division is getting ready to develop the design for that. Another partnership here is in another underserved area, Trinity, Parkwood, Haynes area. Metro owns 65, I believe, acres here for a park. And Habitat is creating a new residential project here, and as part of that, they're making improvements to the Parkwood Community Center, which is not Metro. It's a private community center, ball fields, and then giving over to Metro and building a Greenway connection, a playground, and giving this land. We will come in behind that and develop the rest of the already Metro-owned property with trails, and we'll maintain tree canopy there. We're not gonna come in and cut that. There's a good bit of topography, but it's very well suited for Greenway and then for some hiking trails as well. And then if you can see over to the right, see if I can get this to this neighborhood. We've worked with the adjacent property owner and a developer of one of these lots to give us an easement to have access for this whole neighborhood here to get into this future park. So lots of connectivity in an area that really is underserved. And then I believe this is probably one of my last slides here. Recently acquired 4 acres in addition to the existing Laughlin Springs Park. And that just kind of gives you an idea of what that looks like in the wintertime. It was really, it's a great little park adjacent to Shelby Bottoms.
Pretty. Fabulous.
That's it. Happy to take questions. This is not everything that we're working on. I thought it was enough for today, because I'm sure you're all just like, I don't even know where she was talking about. But anyway, I'll get you all oriented a little bit more as we go along, but I wanted you to get a feel for, we've also got a tremendous amount of activity happening out on Pennington Bend, easements, developments are happening out there, looking at a way to bring that Greenway through the Pennington Bend area. We're limited along the river in many places because of existing residences there that are so close to the top of the bluff. There's just no place to put a Greenway. We would be at their back door. Worked a lot with Councilman Syracuse on getting that developed. Ravenwood Park just opened the first phase of Ravenwood. Again, all that property that was bought, Lytle Bend and Ravenwood, came through our division. So you'll see a lot of property acquisition coming through.
Thank you.
us.
Great report. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now we have an exciting report from Amy Crownover of Greenway, what Greenways for Nashville is doing. Yay. Hope.
Everybody, this is like when we're going to stretch break. I will be brief. And
You have pictures?
terrified trying me, but going into somebody else's computer. So where's the
You are
forward?
good, right here.
Okay. And then
I could
pointer?
have told you here, but I'm not gonna mess with it
Okay.
today.
Where's the
And
pointer?
And while she's
think I
doing that,
just
we
felt-
had a very successful, wonderful dinner by the bridge.
Well, so you're getting to the party first, which
Oh.
is a great place to go. And so I have introduced myself to the 3 new council people that have joined us. The rest obviously are closely familiar with our work, but just kind of stepping back. And I think drawing a little bit of a connection between that extremely detailed presentation you just saw for what you now have heard. It's just a portion of what the division work is and what the city is doing. And so Greenways for Nashville was formed in 1994 by the commission to be a nonprofit charged with engaging the community, educating the community about the developing system at the time, bringing in private dollars to leverage the work. The lion's share of all these greenways have been built with city dollars, city taxpayer dollars that come through the capital budget, and that same money, or that same source, funds the open space acquisitions. When we can, and historically there's a ton of history, but we have been involved in those fundraisings for capital dollars, various parks. I've only been with the organization for 7 years, so I certainly, have heard and read, and then our experience has been, anything from benches, amenities, to land acquisitions, to actually contributing towards the construction of the 440 Greenway. And then I'm talking about our private dollars that are all coming from individuals. We don't receive any money from the city. We give money to the city. So I think that's important to realize. And I'll talk a little bit about our fundraiser, which just happened, which is our primary and most visible broad-based fundraiser. But that's what we are, and I will just pause for a nanosecond because you all talked about what fired you up. And so we know the users. We all come with our own filter, whether it's I'm a cyclist, I love nature, mental health and wellness, physical health and wellness. Those are transit, alternate transportation, protecting wildlife, comes in there with the river buffers and the protection of the stream water quality, which Sandy and I worked together on many moons ago at Harpeth Conservancy together. The sense of community, COVID created that sense of, you maybe didn't even know the people who were walking by you on whatever greenway you were out, just trying to, regain some mental and wellness and stability during COVID. That sense of community, so many people talk to us about that because we are out in the community. We are speaking at a, just really listening, but then also trying to respond to questions and help people get the most out of the system that they fund with their tax dollars. And then, of course, pure recreation, skateboarding, rollerblading, walking, running, jogging, all of about taking your family out. So it's a lot of things to a lot of people, and we don't single out our materials. We try and tap a little bit on all of that. And we certainly, you'll see some of our posts and you might say, oh, well, that's super centric on the conservation piece. But if you scroll forward or back or look in a different newsletter, you'll see we do hit on the others. It's hard to mash it all into one picture or one statement. But that is where that is where our role is to, in a sense, be a marketer of all of that work at a more superficial level or a more, not superficial, digestible level, which is fun. Like many friends groups, we're passionate about our work, Greenways and Open Space, and we are spread across the county. That is the difference between Friends of Shelby, Friends of Warner, Friends of Mill Ridge. Those are all wonderful sister organizations. They're geographically bound. We are the county. So, Dinner by the Bridge, just a brief recap. This is an annual event. It was in its 17th year. For those of you who have heard about it, or maybe for those of you who haven't heard about it, that's probably the more important audience, is it is on a greenway. It is a big, long farm table. It is an incredible fundraiser, outdoor dinner. And it truly gives most guests goosebumps when the weather works out. And this year, the weather worked out, rained all day. We had a team of about 100 staff, contractors who were all there setting up, this vendors, that they were the caterers, they were the event managers. We had 448 people seated for dinner. The event raised over $350,000 for Greenways for Nashville. So that's how we fund all of the materials and the staff that it takes to run our programs. It was also, gosh, the timing couldn't have been better. And, maybe somebody 17 years ago figured that all out. But as the new mayor is coming in when there is an election, actually, Mayor Cooper spoke on his 4th day of office and did an amazing job. Well, this year we had a really unique experience because the transfer of, or the swearing in of Mayor O'Connell was not known by the public until it happened, or shortly before it happened. So we had both Cooper, who we had tapped and asked him to make comments, because he was the mayor when we asked him. And then we had Freddie. And so it was so cool. They did an amazing job. They both, Cooper obviously introduced Freddie, but it was just an incredible reaffirmation. And to get a new mayor there speaking our language is just, it pulls people together. And that's what happened. And then as a guest and a longtime funder of the Greenways program, Mayor Dean personally was pushed up on stage by one of our board members, but we called it a mayoral palooza. It was a lovely night. This is just a snapshot of our sponsors. But you can see that we have a broad base. I want to do a special call out to Amazon and to the Danner Foundation. They're presenting sponsors, and they step up to the lion's share of the sponsorship dollars, but we also have about 50 other sponsors who come in at championship and supporting levels. They're both individuals and companies. So you can see the broad base of support. All of this material is on our website and on our Facebook, so you can peek back at it. It is, yes, it is a fundraiser. It's a high-priced event, so it is not inclusive financially. But we do have, and I've got these a little bit out of order, I'm gonna pop forward. We do have events that have very limited, this particular one has no cost to attend. This is Greenways and IPAs. We do them around town. I think we've got one hopefully planned over in East Nashville. And we're going to meet with a potential partner over there. But this brings together folks. I've got a little bit of a beer theme here, but what we do is bring people together, and we have our materials. We do a little bit of marketing and just cast a broader net to folks who might not be able to join us at Dinner by the Bridge or don't even know much about the Greenways yet. So it's a fun opportunity. So that's part of our programming. It's meeting people where they will come. Nothing like a free beer to get people into a room. And then again, meeting people where they are. We have an outreach team. That is Marissa, our outreach coordinator. She is out during the warm months. She is out probably once or twice a week. It's a pretty big deal to set up. We have volunteers. We have done stuff all across the county, and I know we've been in each of your all's districts in this past year. So that is another place people walk up. We have maps, and again, I've given you those maps and materials. So what we're doing, we're creating awareness. When you create awareness, you create the demand. The demand, then you guys in the council hear about the demand, and you will hear about it from me. I will be one of your speed dial people, I promise you. But I want to support you, I want to encourage you, I want to advocate for the passion of the people that we interface with, and I certainly want to support you as you interface with your constituents with materials that are, again, the maps. We produce these maps. Obviously, we work very closely with Cindy's team, and they review, approve, provide the content. We print, get it underwritten, and do the distribution on the maps, and they are free. We are, out there representing them, and we're there with a face, and we're there with some knowledge of the information that is public. So I think, and then the annual newsletter gives you a great overview. Again, that is a page where we summarize all the work that's being done, our work, our events. We acknowledge our donors, and then the projects that, the public language about the projects that are in the works. So you'll see a lot of, not nearly all of what Cindy's covered, but some things that are funded or that are actually, there is community engagement that started so people can go, oh, okay, well, I can, kind of plug in and learn a little bit more. And that is featured in this newsletter as well. So everything you will ever want to know about Greenways for Nashville is on our website, greenwaysfornashville.org. You can sign up for our Facebook. That's where we put current things. We have an e-newsletter you can sign up for with your metro address. You might consider using your personal, because there is sometimes some blocking by Metro with, we use Constant Contact, and sometimes the filters can get a little bit tight. So if you feel left out, just drop your personal email in there. And then as well, I will provide mail things. I'll add you all to our mailing list. We don't generate a lot of paper, but the newsletter is one of the things we do get out. The invitations to our larger events, we sometimes print out. And then, of course, if you do end up on our mailing list end of year, you know what that is. It's fundraising. So I always say when you sign up in November, just be a little patient, because then that does drop back in January, and we get back to communicating about all the wonderful health, wellness, transit, conservation, wildlife, community building, and we want to get the troops riled to support this program. Any questions?
it's fantastic, and it's hard in the dark to show enthusiasm, but hey, but
Turn the lights on.
that's okay. You and Cindy you and Cindy are sending us home with enthusiasm. But just one thing, I think one of the most useful things is to be able to go online and look up any particular greenway and see, it tells you what to do on it. And I would think maybe for the council people, that's a great place to send whether it's in your district or it's, hey, look at the other things around there. So helpful, it's just great.
And show the love. You can go to the website, you can get your own Greener Nashville for All. Cool t-shirt. And yes, and I'll speak to a little bit if you go on the website and you don't see maybe your individual map or I'm not sure if Harpeth River's on there. We are in the midst of, and I don't want to spoil any surprise, but a major website enhancement. And I think we are modeling it on some others in the city and the National Park Service, and it's going to be really great. It's going to have pictures of your Greenway segment, so people are thinking, oh, I want to go see that. I asked my marketing manager probably twice a day. He's not doing it, we've got a contractor doing it. So that work is hard, it's challenging, and this is really an interactive site. So hopefully in the next month, we'll launch the enhanced site that will really make you proud of what your district has and provide a little bit more in-depth, unique information about the nearly 100 miles that are out there.
Thank you, Amy, thank you. And that we don't want to forget Tom Palco.
Yep.
Come on, you be the finale.
So just to let you all know, we do have representatives from Metro Water Services, NDOT, in the Mayor's Office of Sustainability who come and, because we work with them so much, and give us a little report. So Tom's here today. Take it away.
So again, I'm Tom Palco. I'm an engineer with Metro Water Services. I'm a assistant director, and I'm over everything stormwater. So I have maintenance, I have my water quality division, I'm involved in the permitting, but the funnest thing I do that you guys are concerned about is I buy houses and tear them down. Houses that never should have been built where they are, houses in the floodplain that again, mistakenly years ago were in a bad spot and they flood, and there's nothing I can do from a stormwater standpoint to take the water away from the houses. So we go in typically with someone else's money. It's typically the federal government's money, either the Corps of Engineers or FEMA. And usually the cost share, sometimes with FEMA, the cost share is 100%, 90%, 75% FEMA. Corps of Engineers, it's 65% Corps of Engineers. But there's a big, long process to go through and figure out which houses to buy. But we buy those at fair market value. It's a volunteer basis. We've never forced anybody out. Currently, I'm up to about close to 450 houses, probably 250 acres. And half of that acreage we no longer mow. A lot of it we let grow back along the buffers, and we retain ownership. I don't give the land to parks because then parks would have it, and they may not have the ability to maintain it. So what we do is, I have a relationship with Metro Parks so that they cut the grass for us at our cost. So and there are some properties that saw England Park, for example, some on Mill Creek, the Browns Creek property. Some of those properties have been turned over to Parks as owner. But when we buy these through the federal government, they have to be maintained as open space and have to be maintained by Metro. So we get calls all the time, hey, I see that you're the owner of that. Can you sell that for redevelopment? And no, and no, and no again. So again, it's very great. You know, we take the opportunity to buy the houses when we can, and it sometimes depends on where the most recent flood was and what money's available through FEMA. And we're very aggressive on trying to capture those funds and use them here in Nashville because, again, 100% of the houses I've torn down have never flooded again. They will never flood again once they're torn down. And again, we do.
Wow.
It's a beautiful record that's been maintained. And again, we've been working with Cindy and Parks and Greenways forever. And it's a great partnership that we'll be here for. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're going to adjourn on time, 1 o'clock. We didn't start on time, but it's a good, efficient meeting. Thank you all for coming, very much.
Next meeting, December 13th. Probably here. We haven't done a field trip, but the weather's kind of iffy in December, so we'll probably be right here.
And the meeting's generally every other month, the second Wednesday. Usually here. And you can, if you want to mark up your 2024 calendar, you can do that, and then you'll have a better chance of being able to come, which would be great. Thank you.
If any of you need a bundle of maps, just let me know. Don't feel pressured because they are certainly in demand. But if you have a constituent event and we have bundles of 25 of these full system maps, I'm happy. And what Cindy, I meant to say it, sorry, and I guess the meeting's over, but the City Central Greenway loop system she referred to a couple of times there is, definitely a novel on this map. So it's not just a map, it's got a lot of text, and you'll see some things reiterated that you heard today. But City Central is graphically represented on it also.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.